Someone told me Nashville has beer. I didn't believe them, so I had to check it out for myself.
Party time brews. This song ain't no good, but we got nothing to lose. Party time brews. Here's another brewing clip. You can watch it if you choose.
First things first, we packed our bags, ditched the kids, jumped on a plane, drank a few beer just in case, and in a few hours we were landing in Nashville. The airport wasn't that busy, and we hopped into a cab to get us to the Airbnb. We ended up with a great looking apartment, which in the end wasn't that necessary, but it was super comfortable and very close to Broadway, which is the main strip. What else was close? Damaged buildings. There was a bombing here on Christmas morning in 2020 which damaged over 40 businesses, many of which sold beer. Was I right? Was Nashville a beerless city? Nope, definitely wasn't right on that one. Just around the corner was Broadway, where every bar has great music and the party seems to never stop, even on the road. There are a silly amount of booze buses filled with bachelor, bachelorette, and people turning 21 parties. What else does Nashville have? Apparently country music. They have a Hall of Fame, a Johnny Cash museum, many bars owned or at least licensed by country music stars, and the Grand Old Opry, which apparently the locals and possibly everyone else like to call the Grand Old Opry. Becoming a member of the Grand Old Opry is one of the highest achievements in country music. The highlight of our Grand Old Opry tour was Billy Ray Cyrus's mullet. But enough of that. You're here for the beer. And what better way to have your first beer in Nashville than to pulverize your taste buds? The only food on my list for Nashville was hot chicken. The travel guides mentioned two places, Hattie B's and Prince's. Since Hattie B's was closer, that's where we went. 35 degrees outside and a half-hour wait, but we were pretty happy with it in the end. I went for the boneless hot chicken. I'm not normally one for hot sauce, but it was delicious. It only cost me 3 days of heartburn. And I went for my first beer here, and it was a scofflaw. I didn't do my research, and that beer was from Atlanta. Big fail to start. It's only up from here. We hit up the tourist strip for the next few hours, and while the atmosphere was awesome and the music was great, the downside is that most offerings consist of $9 PBRs or Bud Lights. The best place we found on the strip was the Headquarters Beercade. It was right at the start of the strip by the river, and they had a great assortment of classic arcade games which didn't cost a thing. I had my first milkshake IPA there, which was super tasty, but I had to finish it up in a hurry to get to a last-minute concert we booked. While we were there, it made sense to see some Brooks and Dunn with a hint of Darius Rucker. Miranda even showed up and said what I think everyone was thinking.
Well, I'm going to drink. Y'all entertain me now.
And now onto the real beer. The way we decided to do this was to jump onto the Music City Brew Hop, which is basically an old converted trolley that takes you to 7 breweries in 7 hours. We did it on a Sunday, so we didn't quite get the chance to stake it out at the last place for longer, but it did bring us back to downtown where we could hit up the streets again if we wanted to. The tour started at noon and we managed to hit up 7 breweries on the tour. The first place we hit, Crazy Gnome Brewing. Shout out to Gnome Brewing, totally unrelated, but he has a site, check it out. And my favorite beer there was the Je ne sais quoi Belgian Saison. Was delicious, went down easy, and one of the first of many beer of the day. Next we went off to what was probably our favorite spot of the tour, Tailgate Brewery. We went to their East Nashville location and they had a crazy good selection. It was here we decided that we'd have to get clever if we want to maximize our sampling. One day, 50 beers. I'll save you the individual reviews here because I definitely forgot about them, but my favorite, because I took notes, was the Watermelon Margarita Goza, followed closely by the Peanut Butter Stout. They had a lot of great beer and I wish we had a lot more time to check it, but it was quickly off to the next place. And before we jump into the next place, the food here was also quite tasty. They kind of pride themselves on making pizzas from scratch, and you can never go wrong with pizzas. We didn't have one, but all the appetizers we had were great at this place. And if you check in the comments below, I have a link to their YouTube page, which has actually a pretty good series on kind of the making and what the brewery is all about. So check that out if you want to know more about Tailgate Brewing. I saw something cool at Tailgate Brewing, which was their mug club. I have no idea how prevalent they are around the places. I haven't seen any around here, but maybe I'm not looking. But either way, they have a great program that saves you money on beer. They have one day a week where they're kicking kegs and charging $1 a beer and lots of other deals. And I always approve of beer deals. Next stop was Southern Grist, East Nashville. This tap room opened up about a year ago, and the brewery's been around since 2016. It had over 40 beer on tap and seems to be modeled after a fancy hotel bar. Perfect for all those beer judgy types. I really like their raspberry snow cone beer, but as I'm posting this video, I don't think it's available as they are very experimental in their brewing, and you're gonna get a lot of different types of beer at different times, so probably a great place to go back to. They also do have another location where you can get their vintage beer, which range from $16 for a mixed culture pint to $36 for a double-barreled Imperial Stout. The day was starting to get a little bit hazy, but the next stop was East Nashville Beer Works. It had a great family environment and was one of the first places I saw with a kids' play set on the outside patio. which is a pretty great idea because they can kind of disappear over there and you can sit back and have some great beer. We were getting a bit hungry here, so we ordered some food and the pizza was delicious. Didn't order enough, but it was great. My favorite beer here was the Cosmic Sipper. It was a fruited ale and it was a low ABV, so fantastic for a sunny afternoon. But don't worry, I didn't forget about the count, and by the end of this bar, I was up to 35 for the day. A quick note, those aren't 35 full samples. I was not up to 175 ounces. I tried 35 different beer. I didn't say I'd drink the whole thing. And now for the sad part of the tour. While there are 7 breweries and 7 hours of beer touring, you waste about an hour of the tour kind of on the bus. So you really only have time to hit 6 breweries, so the best thing you can do there is you have to choose one, which we chose as Bearded Iris because apparently it's the closest walk. So we had to split it up between Bearded Iris and Monday Night. So without further ado, here's Bearded Iris. Was a great place, had nice grain mills out front, and is named after the Bearded Iris, obviously, which is apparently Nashville's state flower. If you're hopping nut, this place is for you, as their menus Pale Ale, IPA, and Dippa Heavy. We really wish we could have had more than half an hour at this spot. And as we went up to the counter for excitement, I was getting close because I knew I was close to my 50 beer goal, but we found out this was the first brewery on the tour, the rest of them also wouldn't do it, that did not have flights. So you had to order a full beer, so we went heavy with trying the beer from each other. But in ordering a pint each, you didn't really get a chance to sample as many beers as you would have liked at this place. So this was slowing down the goal of 50. I really liked their Mood Ring Milkshake IPA. They had a great milk stout, and their Pilsner was also good as well. So they can kind of do everything. But with that, that's all we had. We had to get walking to the next spot, which was Monday Night Brewing. This brewery started out in Atlanta and is now located in the historic Neuhoff district. It's a crazy good location, but in my super expert opinion, it should have been called Slaughterhouse Brewing, as it's on the site of the now defunct, or at least defunct since 1979, Neuhoff meatpacking facility, where millions of cattle voluntarily gave their life to make delicious barbecue. But now onto the beer. The place had a great vibe and was even showing some Rescue Rangers cartoons, so you know it's a good place. I like the mischief-managed passion fruit guava Berliner Weiss, but the blackberry lemon sour was great as well. Finally, with not much time to spare, we were back on the bus and off to Breweries Brewing and Blending. The tap room's been around for about a year, but the business has been going for at least 4. Their website didn't have too much information on them, but their Facebook page has a really good kind of blog of what they're up to and the kind of beers that they're offering. The day was starting to hit us, so why not have a Pilsner? We tried their Uber Pilsner. Crap. A 9% Pilsner that goes down easy. There wasn't too much time here since the tour was ending, but I definitely would try this place again, as they have a lot of different flavors that you don't normally get at the standard tap room. So we got dropped off back downtown after only trying 47 different types of beer. It's kind of a failure on my part, but again, I emphasize it wasn't 47 full samples. I didn't drink 15 full beer. I couldn't really manage much more on the day, but at around 10 p.m. I did manage to try one of Dana's Good People IPA, served on top of a scooped nacho for my 48th beer sample of the day. I was done. The next morning, I did manage to have a Youngling and a Michelob Light for number 49 and 50 within 24 hours. Not a day, but within 24 hours. So I did it. Ish, kind of, maybe. You decide. Did I do it? Did I not do it? Nobody knows. You know. Comment. On the final day, we decided to do a little bit more of the touristy stuff and the, I guess, tourist trappy stuff. We stopped at an unofficial Willie Nelson museum that also had a Dukes of Hazzard museum next to it with a replica of the car and tow truck, or maybe one of the car and tow trucks used in the show, one of many. Finished off the day with a quick tour of the Grand Old Opry, and then it was off for some tacos and beer to finish off the trip. On our final day, we've managed to visit a few more breweries, which was Tennessee Brew Works, which had a really great seating area overlooking their brewery. They even had a cool new mash filter on display there, and they also had some live music, so can't go wrong there. The next one we stopped at was Yeehaw Brewing, which had a really great outdoor environment, huge space, big stage, and was coupled up with a distillery, which apparently is pretty popular as well, so you get beer and booze there. On the way to the airport, we took the cab for a quick visit to the Parthenon. No need to visit Greece anymore, Nashville has a Parthenon. And the final brewery we stopped at was actually Little Harpeth Brewery, which is actually in the airport. Their production facility was kind of taken offline a bit by the tornado. Either way, they decided to just take up the contract in the airport, so if you pass Little Harpeth Brewery, stop and give it a shot. And then as we were taking off, we got to see all the rest of the sites that we didn't see in Nashville. Check these out. Overall, Nashville is a great place to visit. The touristy stuff is a little bit expensive, but we did manage to have an amazing time. If I went back again, I would probably stay a little bit off of the main strip because it's really not that far of a walk, and if you stay 3 or 4 blocks away, you probably get a much better deal on an Airbnb. The music, breweries, barcades, and entertainment make Nashville a great place to visit. If you've made it this far, you're probably interested in beer, so why not check out this video about making beer? If you like what you saw, why not give it a subscribe and see what other kind of stuff I can put out? And maybe like the video if it wasn't garbage. Cheers everyone, and hope to see you on my next trip. Oh, by the way, I just started partytimebrewing.com and you can get this hat and maybe some other stuff. Cheers.